What is going on, guys? This is Megan and Jose Torres, and we have the privilege of being on this platform, and we're going to. We've been trying to do this for around 3 weeks now. We came up, and I say we, our lending partner, Emily, came up with this great name, Agents Who Serve, because we feel like we needed to kind of talk about our beliefs and what we do for a living, and through serving and through God, and we're going to keep this between 20 and 25 minutes, and you guys are going to get to know a little bit about our story. So my name is Jose, and I grew up in Puerto Rico, and I came to the States when I was around 11, 12 years old, and I just I moved here with my parents, and it's been interesting since we moved down here in the 90s, and it's been great so far. So and this is my lovely wife, and why don't you tell the viewers, whoever's gonna watch this, who you are?
Well, I'm your wife. Well, my name is Megan. Let's see. What do you want to know?
Well, I mean, where do you come from?
I come from my mom. I'm kidding. I have lived in Sugarland all my life. I was born and raised here. My dad is Lebanese. He's from Lebanon. My mom is from Ecuador. She's from Ecuador. And yeah, here I am, 34 years later.
Yeah, so a little bit about us. We and we're gonna get into the details in later episodes, but we're actually high school sweethearts. We met in the we met in
the new slang.
Yeah, we met in the early 2000s.
We actually had this debate the other day.
Yeah, we did. So I was a junior while Megan was a freshman, and it was really interesting to see ourselves as high schoolers, and we look back and I'm like, okay, sir.
Super cringy, like our 10-year-old says.
Right. So yeah, no, we have a 10-year-old that says cringy and what's up, bro, and all that stuff. So so our lives, we dated in high school, and we kind of jumped into this so-called life, and it has not always been peaches and cream, and we're not perfect, and we're not trying to be, but we are better people than what we were, I say, even 4 or 5 years ago. So
we're much better people than we were 4 years ago.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's been interesting. It's been an interesting ride. So in this podcast, you're gonna get we're gonna talk about our personal stuff, and we're gonna talk about what we do now, and the people that we've met along the way to get us to where we are now, and the people who we met who we thought were gonna get us to that next level, and I just think it's been an interesting last couple of years, and it's been great. I think the last 2 to 3 years, I think we've been super blessed, and I think it's only the beginning for us. You always inspire to be more, but if you don't have the vision through what God is showing you, you're not gonna. I'm not gonna say you're not gonna make it, but you're doing it for the wrong reasons. So I feel like this is very important, just because we get to share a platform that we can talk about.
Yeah, and it's good because we don't. This isn't meant to be just about business and what we do now. It's basically sharing what we've gone through, how that's affected us in our adulthood, what we went through in our childhood that has shaped our early, adult life, and what we had to do to fix those things as, I guess, are we middle-aged? middle-aged adults now.
I think if you see it in a literal sense, I think mid-age would be like 50. That's why they call it midlife crisis.
Yeah.
You hit that 45 to 50, and then you go out and buy that yellow Corvette that you always been dreaming about. So that's when you hit middle, I think. If God blesses me to be 100, then my middle life will be at 50.
So basically, I'm saying I'm only gonna live till I'm 70.
No, because realistically, women do last longer than men. So if you're gonna live to be 70, that means like I'm dead at like 55.
Oh no.
So and I don't want to. Obviously, that's God. Whenever God calls me, I'm ready. So we both came in, and we're gonna get right into it. Because there's gonna be a lot of stuff that we talk about, and then we're gonna you will only get what you put into life. So, if you only try your 50%, 60%, then you're only gonna get back your the return on investment. You're only gonna get a certain amount back. If you hit it at 100%, you get 100% return. So, it took me about 30 years, including my birth, to realize that I was doing life the wrong way, and not because.
What were you doing in life?
We'll get into that, and not because my parents didn't teach me. My parents are very loving parents, and I love them to death. But there were certain things that I was not doing, at the time you're very ignorant to stuff, and you only think
because you only know what you know. Like
you only know what you know. You're only going to practice at home what you're taught, and it was one of those things where it took me a very long time to realize, like, hey man, like, you're doing it wrong. And we were actually talking in the car earlier. God is a very patient person. He's gonna wait until you are done with doing whatever you're doing in life, and he's gonna look at you and say, "Are you done?" And it took a long time for him to show up and say, "All right, are you done now? Here's what I have to offer." And when God speaks to you the first time, he's there. It's not like, oh, I heard this voice. No, like, take it. Because if you don't take it the first time, then you're going to keep missing him every single time.
Yeah, but I mean, it takes a very clear ear to be able to hear that and for you to do something with it, because most times what happens is that you do get that the voice, of God speaking or downloading into you, but sometimes whoever the person is either may not know that, has not lived that life prior, or is too caught up in their own ways to be able to receive that. So right. I mean, it's easier to say than it is to do.
Yeah, for sure. And I agree with you 100%. We just need to be very mindful of when things are said to you in a way that I can go this path. I can go this path that I know it's not gonna grow me in any way. Or I could take this other path that I know is the correct path, but the problem is that there's going to be some people on the other path that you think is the correct way, mm-hmm. that are going to cheer for you in the wrong way. And I went through that so many times. People who I thought were friends.
But we all have that. The thing is that we have to recognize that. Like, there's always going to be, my I'll never forget my mom always told me, like, you know, don't just do anything that everyone else is doing. You know, if so and so is gonna jump off a cliff, are you gonna jump off a cliff?
Yeah,
too?
that's the most cliche that every parent says, and it can't.
Yeah.
And it's very true.
It is true, but you
It's
know,
very true, and
but when you don't know any different, then you know, then you don't know any different, and that's what you just end up choosing. It's not until you fall from the cliff or you jump off the mountain that you realize, like, oh, you know, I probably shouldn't have done that.
yeah, and yeah.
But you need to go into detail of that because it's being very vague.
Yeah. So, just and in detail, and in all reality is that I was a musician for. I mean, I'm still a musician at heart, and but when you're in the music scene for so long, that's all you know, for 15 plus years, and that's all you learn, and you are in an environment that is not healthy.
So I think it's important to say that your dad was a musician.
Yeah, my father was a musician, and he played with. He was a musician when we were back in Puerto Rico. He traveled all over the island. He got to travel with a lot of different bands in the United States, and he was very well known in back in the 80s and 90s, and so I kind of followed that path. Sorry, that was a cat that just kind of flew by us. So that's the life that I remember as early as I remember. Me 11, 12 years old. That every time my dad would get ready for a gig, I was always getting ready with him. And there were some times where like I would go get ready, but he would leave because he knew he couldn't take me. So it was one of those things like that as a child, you're like, man, dad couldn't take me, but then I would go the next day or the next week, because different gigs had different
rules, like
rules.
festivals, like for example, when my son, who's 10 now, but when he was 3 or 4 years old, and you would be at a festival, we would go.
Yeah, so you would see me play and stuff. So so that was my life, from 14 all the way to 30, 31. Well, a little bit more than that.
How old are you?
36. So
when did COVID happen? How many years ago?
2020 March.
So 3 years.
Yeah. So
33.
So I was,
32?
I was like 32 to 33.
32.
And there was music is great if you're doing it for the right reasons. I feel like you give so much joy to people, but at the same time there's these toxic traits out there, and you have the temptations with drugs, alcohol, and the women, and they see you up there and they think, oh my god, like this guy's famous. Especially playing for some of these big time people, you would get all
recognition.
Kinds of recognition. And it got to the point where like it was hurting. It was hurting me inside, and my mind. It was my head was just filled with all this, with all these things. So it was a process. It's like you go through these, when you're an addict to something, you go through these withdrawals, and I was like that. I couldn't get used to the fact that I was home on the weekends and not out there. Now you need to. An emergency needs to happen for me to leave that door, out the door. Like, I love my weekends at home, unless I'm working on the business, obviously, and we'll get into that later on. But my business is different to what I used on the weekends than what I used to do on the weekends. But you're only you will only do what you're taught, and I'm not saying that my dad, you know, was like that by any means.
Yeah, but like you have to consider the fact that when your dad was doing music, the world was different. Like we lived in a completely different world than we do now.
Yeah, there's so much stuff going on now.
There now, because back then, you know, yes, there was drugs, there was alcohol, there was women, there was, you know, all of that stuff, but it wasn't like as accessible like as it is now.
Well,
and
I mean,
now like there's so much more pollution in the air, if you will, that it's a different type of environment now whenever you go to those places versus when, you know, it was in the late 80s, because you were born in 86, so in the late 80s, early 90s in Puerto Rico versus 2023 in the United States, you know, so it's the world is just different.
The world is definitely
and so
different.
I think it's important to say, you know, like that aspect of your life, like you didn't really ever know anything outside of what it was to be a musician, and so as a young boy it was your goal to be a musician just like your dad, because your dad showed you how to be a musician.
Yeah, and you're always gonna aspire, if you guys that are watching have you know kids, and your son or daughter is always gonna look up to what you're doing. You're gonna be an image. You're always gonna be their hero. And they're always gonna copy what you're doing at all times. So, obviously, I didn't leave music behind. I just stopped doing. I just stopped doing music for a good, you know, since COVID happened. Obviously, everything shut down. But
well, I think we kind of need to jump from the beginning, because I feel like we kind of started in the middle. So I guess it would be also really important to say that yes, we are high school sweethearts, and technically in this adult relationship we have been in since 2005, but we have history prior to that, because I was a freshman, you were a junior, but we don't really necessarily count that because we didn't start dating from when I was a freshman until right now.
Right.
So there was like a gap in between our high school dating, but I mean, ultimately we are high school sweethearts because I was still in high school and we dated multiple times in high school.
Yeah. So let's go back to that, and I'm gonna leave. That way you guys keep watching. I'm gonna leave all the details to the next episode, but it's interesting. So yeah, you're right. So in 2004, I graduate, and Megan stays in high school. Obviously, she graduates in 2006, and I take her out on a date after I leave high school.
It was for my birthday.
It was for her birthday. So, I remember.
This would be summer of 2005.
Yeah. So, I went to the mall with my parents. I believe my grandma was there too.
You were at Mervin's. Remember Mervin's was right next to.
Wow. Yes.
We were at Mervin's. It's the men's Dillard's in First Colony Mall, but it was Mervin's.
So I was at Mervin's, and then Megan used to work at this place called Limited 2. And so obviously, prior to her working at the mall, we had also, you know, met in high school, and we were like a little, like, flirtatious, kind of, you know, we're in that high school stage, like, oh my god, he's so cute, she's so cute, kind of like that. But
probably looks different now.
Yeah, I mean, I still think you're cute, but then so then I look through the window. I'm like, oh man, that's Megan. And then she looks at me, and then she starts laughing. And then I come inside, and then I ask her. I was like, what are you doing for your birthday? You're like, oh, I'm not doing anything. And then I was like, all right, do you want to go to the movies? And then she was like, oh my god, are you asking me? I was like, yeah. So mind you,
but we went to Chili's first.
Yeah, we went to Chili's.
I had a salad.
And, because she was shy about eating.
And you had a steak. And French fries.
I'm pretty sure.
From Chili's.
And we don't go to Chili's anymore.
Chili's is disgusting.
Chili's, if you're watching, I'm so sorry. So, we get to the movies. Oh, mind you, so I'm a big car guy. And at the time, I remember my parents had gotten me a 1994 Honda Accord. And if you know me from like back in the day, I was hardcore into like, you know, I was the one that always had the nice rims, like super low to the ground, like nice sound system, tinted windows. Like I had the works, right? And
the works for being a 19-year-old, I guess.
Yeah,
You'd be 19.
Back in 2005, I was like balling with my 1994 Honda Accord. You know, it was only a 10-year-old car. Wow, now it's 30 years old if you think about it. So, I pulled up to her house. She's like, "Oh my goodness, what is this?" And I was like, "This is my car." And mind you, I had like the bass system like all the way up, and we were, I think at the time we were probably jamming to La Reggaeton.
Yeah.
And
Daddy Yankee.
Like Daddy Yankee. Daddy Yankee had come out in 2004 with
Gasolina.
With his album, and obviously I had to go to the mall to go pick up the CD, and I still have that CD somewhere.
Yeah.
But so that's how we met. Then after that, guys, I ghosted her for like a month.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, literally it was a month because my birthday's July 5th. I mean, July 2nd. And then technically our anniversary is 8/9/05.
Yeah, So August 9th, 2005 was the official day that we started dating. So a month later, I'm like trying like, I'm texting her in my little Razor phone, and she's ignoring me.
The little Nokia.
Yeah, she's ignoring me completely, and all of a sudden, like, she responds back, and she's upset, and I was like, no, I want to try again. So, officially from August 9th, 2005 till now, we've been together, and it's just been
give or take, because I mean, there was some periods of time in there where
we're
on a break.
It was one of those, So, anyways, I think this is gonna be, because we're about to end this first episode. We gave you guys a premise of what this podcast is gonna be like. You guys get to enjoy this journey.
So we'll pick up on episode 2 with when we got out of high school.
So we'll pick up as soon as we left high school and what we did out of high school. And how dumb we were out of high school, because we're trying to help out some people out there to not make the same mistakes that we did coming out of high school. So I hope you guys enjoyed this first episode. I think this is going to be great. I promise you, this is not going to be our setup. This was like kind of an impromptu, podcast, because we're going to have like a mic in front of us and hopefully a better setup in here, that way you can see like our office a little bit better, not just a blank gray wall behind us.
It's a little messy.
Yeah, it's a little messy. Anyways, guys, I hope you guys take care, and we're excited to see what we can do to help you in what God is trying to do with us. Just live life to the fullest.
Live, laugh, love.
I hate live, laugh, love, by the way. Anyways, y'all take care.